Dr. Andrew Campbell. He's the director of International Peace and Leadership Institute and author of Chaos is a Gift and Peace Leadership. He provides emerging leadership, research and leadership development and training programs on a leader's role in the international, national, and non-governmental organization. Dr. Campbell, as a retired senior military officer, works for Department of Defense, specializing in cybersecurity, counter-terrorism, global building partnership, and security cooperation. He is an adjunct professor for the Air Force Command and Staff College, Norwich University, and the U.S. Office of Personnel Management at the Federal Executive Institute. He is here with us to talk to us about character-based leadership in times of crisis. So over to you, Mr. Campbell.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me get my, can you see my screen?
I can see you, not your screen. Maybe.
There, how's that? Sure. There, can you see it now? There.
There's a small screen share icon there. You just have to.
Yeah, I did that, and it's not hitting my share here. Huh. Oh, there it is. Okay. There, how's that?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Andrew, the stage is yours now.
Okay. I want to, first of all, I don't know who came up with being a motivational speaker at 7 o'clock in the morning, the U.S. time, but I want to say it is an honor and a privilege to be here speaking to you on a subject that is near and dear to my heart, but also I hope that it's also something that will be able to be that will challenge you. And when I'm looking at the challenges, not just for you that I'm going to be challenging, it's also for me too. So what I'm going to be talking about is not just for you, but also dealing it with me. So what we're going to talk about for today is not so much the technical that you guys have been talking about. I've been listening to the speakers, but we're going to talk about leadership and what kind of leader are you within your organization, and why do you want to be a leader, and what is your character like as a leader? So we're going to talk a little bit about that for today. This is the agenda, and I'm primarily going to talk about such things as, the challenge that cyber leaders have, because leaders are within all organizations, but there's a difference between a high performer and one that is going to that is a expert in their field, and one that has the technical capabilities, but do they actually have the character to be leaders? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the differences between leadership, what it was yesterday and what it is for today in this new environment. We're going to talk about what I call, it's been around for quite a while, came from the U.S. Department of the Army at the Strategic War College. We're going to talk a little bit about VUCA in a couple of different areas, and then we're going to talk about what that has to do with leadership, and then we're going to talk about developing leaders that's in a crisis, and then we're going to talk a little bit about character-based leadership, and then we'll go on and do some questions from there. But when I'm sure that everybody's asking, well, what does this have to do? What does leadership have to do with cybersecurity? Well, it's not just the cybersecurity, but it's not just the cybersecurity, but every organization has leaders. Every organization has somebody that's going to either be a manager or a leader. And so it's important to understand what kind of leader are you as you move forward, because when somebody is going to be working for somebody. So it's it's you as a leader to know what kind of leadership do you have, what do you believe in, what is your strategy. We're going to look at because the need for leadership development for cybersecurity should be a top priority. In fact, cybersecurity is a business strategy and requires an organizational-wide multidisciplinary approach. And IT requires it's a business savvy, it's delegation and across level integration and coordination. Studies have shown that cyber and technical managers, they lack the skills and experience to lead people in teams and in a complex environment. That was done by Harvard in 2014. While organizations do require cyber skills such as network security, threat intelligence, and incident responses, these should not be the yardstick to measure cyber leaders. Leaders are problem solvers and they're decision makers. And in order to guide these decisions, we need to have a moral compass. And such a moral compass will guide leaders to do the right thing when faced with a moral dilemma. So we spend an enormous amount of time developing business strategies with a vision and mission, but too often we don't do that for ourselves or for our own personal lives, or how do we want to be a leader. So we don't develop those skills. We don't look at that. It's not just to develop the skills, but it's like, what is your strategy as a leader? Because when you have that, you create a organizational culture that people are either going to want to stay in or they're not. So it's like, what is that organizational culture? Because you as a leader of that organization, you are ultimately responsible. You shape that organizational culture, whether it's going to be a results oriented or it's going to be where it's just task oriented. That's all we're concerned about. Just get the task done and that's it. Or whether it's going to be a learning culture where you're trying to learn about a culture that is not just doing the technical and learning the technical skills, but also learning and developing those people in their soft skills, such as emotional intelligence, or such as how to think critically, or how to navigate a crisis. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk more about what has what has changed in the last 25 years as far as leadership, because we're now in a new environment. And I would submit that we're going to be talking about this a little bit later, but I would submit that we've been in this environment for the last 15 or 20 years, and if not even longer. We're just now really starting to understand that, because leadership used to be, and that sometimes it still is, depending upon your culture, but effective leaders in a global perspective, leaders are no longer, with organizations that wants to retain their high performers. They are more getting away from and morphing away from the limited command and control, the hierarchical directives, where it's very execution oriented, task oriented, very bossy, where everything is being looked at now about developing skills, where everybody was like, where organizations used to be where they were very skill focused instead of what they are for today, which is they're very collaborative. Whereas before it was very stovepiped. Now, now organizations are looking more towards where they've got to be agile and they've got to be more of a team oriented, where you work across the organizational lines. And it's more of changing those mindsets instead of skills. I was talking to a very well popular leadership person last week, and his subjects and his expertise was looking at changing and helping organizations change from being so skill focused, where we're developing our, where we've been more interested and more focused on developing those skills, those hard skills, and more of changing the behaviors and doing that both. So it's not just looking at the skills, but also looking at how do we change those behaviors so people can, where the emotional intelligence is just as important as those technical skills that we've been talking about all week. So, or for the last couple of days. So we're going to talk about this environment that we're in. And I would submit to you that we've been involved in, that we've been in this environment anyway. Events are occurring at a pace and with an impact that is difficult to foresee. A good example of that right now is with COVID. No one, and I mean no one, could foresee or was even prepared to deal with the political and economic complexities as leaders manage the uncertainty, the volatility, and the complexity and the ambiguity of such an event. But nevertheless, we live in a VUCA world, and that's the world that we live in, and leaders must be able to manage those events that we can no longer control. In fact, leaders need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that said, to be a leader in a VUCA world, we need to understand that everything is very volatile right now. And I would submit that it's here to stay. Effective leadership is the ability to contain and maintain organizational uncertainty, chaos, and volatility as organizations operate in a complex and ambiguous environment. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into this, but I'm just going to give you a very high level understand of what the volatility is, and the uncertainty and the complexity and the ambiguity of what those terms are. For example, with the speed of technological innovation and the magnitude of political discourse and the scale of unstable socioeconomic events, it brings volatility within a constantly shifting business and ecosystem. For example, to illustrate, leaders are not afforded the luxury of stability and predictability anymore. That's how leadership used to be. That's what leaders wanted. They want that predictability. If I make this decision and if I make this issue, this is going to be the certain outcome. It's not that way anymore. Like, for example, to illustrate the introduction of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency and blockchain technology designed to transfer money seamlessly is not only bringing volatility, but also generating a rapid global market fluctuation and instability across the financial ecosystem. For example, again, the uncertainty. We don't know from time to time what's going on, even with COVID. That's been the predominant shaping of even the way that we operate, and everything is so uncertain, and the uncertainty is very uncontrollable, and you cannot plan events, or you cannot plan certain courses of action, because everything is so uncertain. So that's why you have to understand that there is that we don't know what we don't know, and we have to be able to just make the best decisions with what we have, with the information that that we have at that particular time, because it's very complex. With the advent of technological innovation, it just makes those pathways even more complex, especially as we're introducing robotics and artificial intelligence into our daily lives and day-to-day operations of our organizations. It's changing the business landscape, and when you have that change that's so rapid, it brings chaos, and it brings crisis. So then, not only that, because of that, everything's going to be very ambiguous. I mean, leaders are now having to disentangle the fragmented, unclear, unpredictable, and uncertain environments that we operate in. So what does this mean for leaders? What does this mean for cyber leaders? What this means is that we have to be able to, as we go through and we make decisions, what's going to affect us in one area is also going to have a second and third order effects in a different area that we may not even have anticipated. So we've got to be able to understand, how to lead and how to help our subordinates, or how to lead our team members in areas to make decisions that of a secondary and third order of effects that are very unanticipated, and so that's how come what we've got there is, this is the operational environment that we are in. And I think that everybody would agree that we don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. We just don't know, because COVID, or because of the political environment and the economical environment as the three key pillars. Even for right now, it's all going to change. You don't know, and you can't foresee. All you can do is do the best that you can. But that's why we've got to be able to understand, how do we help our people be able to, and lead them to be productive and be calm, and be able to navigate through this complexity. And so this is, again, it's a VUCA. But the thing is that, even though we live in a VUCA world, and we as leaders must be able to manage the events that we cannot control, like I said before, leaders need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that said, we live in a VUCA world that is not just operational, not just what we're living in, but now to be able to lead that is through what we call, in the other side, and this become a little bit more clear a little bit later, but it's looking at your vision. What kind of vision and the values, the understanding, do they be, are they able to understand where you're at and who you are as a leader, so that they have the clarity and the adaptability. And I'm just going to briefly go over this, because values and vision go hand in hand, and they generate a sense of self and what you stand for as a leader. So what is your core values? And do you have those written down? What guides you as a leader? What's your core value? For example, mine is creativity, and I'm looking for new ways of doing things all the time. What's yours? Think of what your vision is for your life, for you as a leader. How are you going to create this organizational culture that will maintain and your workers, that will keep the retention high, and yet still have and maintain the high performers? Understanding the skill. The key skill here is that sense making and good emotional intelligence to where you are listening, not just listening to what's being said, but listening for understanding. Okay, there's a difference. How do you perceive the situation? People want to know. And so when they understand your vision as a leader, who you are, which it's okay to tell people who you are as a leader, because they look to you, and your character determines what kind of leader that you are. Okay? Because when they have that, when they know what, and they believe in it, and they're willing to follow you, then they're going to have the clarity. They're going to be able to say, okay, there's so much noise out there that we need to be able to cut through it with concise, precise communication in order to present a clear picture that others can follow. Distractions are constant. People's attention spans are shorter than ever. So leaders need to be able to grab that attention and inspire and motivate people to take the desired action. And then have not just the adaptability, but the agility, because things are always constantly going to change. The highlights that leaders need to be flexible and adaptable to this new environment, and especially as things are changing so rapidly. They must be able to, and that demands the resilience, to deal with, the knockbacks, things that always fail. Okay, whether you're thinking of leading self so that you are more in control of your life, or whether you are going to lead others, developing the skills of vision, understanding, clarity, and agility will put you in the right place to lead with integrity. When you focus on leading yourself, you will be more powerful, and you'll play a powerful role, and will inspire others to to take control for themselves as well. That way, we are doing more than just surviving these turbulent times. We can grow through them and take advantage of the opportunities that they present. Leading with these VUCA qualities is something that we can all learn to do. That is, but it requires a growth mindset. A little courage and emotional resilience. Now, let me tell you, this is kind of what I'm going to. This is kind of gives you a description. The lower bottom, okay, just pretend like this is a big sea, and you got the ship, okay, and that ship is just kind of floating along, and underneath those currents, everything is very volatile, and we just got through describing. Everything is volatile. It's complex. The currents are just moving. You don't know how it's going to go. Everything is just kind of very uncertain. And then, but in order to navigate through that, as you go up towards the surface, as the boat is going, it's calm. And the reason is because you've got more of a vision. You're more, people know who you are, know where you're going as a leader, because they see your vision. They see what kind of culture, and they see what kind of character that you have. Even in a cyber environment where everything is going so fast, they understand what the criticalities are. They understand that they need to have that clarity to be able to say, okay, my boss is not here, but I know where I'm going. I know where he wants to take us as a organization, and that's when the boat just kind of floats along. But when you don't have that, it brings a lot of turbulence in the water, and it will carry the organization to and fro. And so that's why it's important that the leader has a sense of character, because that character guides you. That character shows the people that and shows your followers who you are, because this is the environment that we're in. And it's just like I just got through talking about. You got you got so much that's going on. And within that, if you notice, there's there's also, places that you can be very where your ethical dilemmas can come up. Leaders are people who will set up who will step up to a crisis. Leaders are people who make those tough decisions, and at the same time, there are people who can listen. They are people that are empathetic, and they also will show action and with due diligence and how they are able to understand and look forward to what needs to be done to create the vision to where you want to go and the ability to bring people along with you. Fundamental to success development as an effective leader, one where people will want to follow you, is in understanding the universal competencies of leadership. For example, accountability for acceptance of responsibility for one's mistakes, communicating by clearly articulating and listening to meaning, collaboration that reaches across the organizational boundaries to achieve shared goals, shared awareness of one's strengths and weaknesses, and capacity to adapt to the uncertain environment that we are in. Because as I said, if there's anything that you get out of this, character is the foundation of leadership. And in fact, we've seen this, and these are the principles of character-based leadership. Effective leadership is one of the most critical and important factors for long-term survival. There is a leadership crisis, not only within the business community, but every level of society. And over several years, leadership scholars have focused on competency development, such as self-responsibility, management, self-direction, influencing negotiation, technical competence, and emotional intelligence. In the literature and among leadership competency development frameworks, competency proficiency is wrapped up in one's character, and yet frequently character is not mentioned. As a result, organizational leaders, as far as when they develop, organizational leaders, they have begun to recognize that what we are doing is no longer working. That they know, that they may know what they're doing technically, and they may have, all the technical expertise, but they cannot cope with the environment that is uncertain and unpredictable, and that people are losing confidence and trust in their leaders. If one examines the common thread that is foundational, effective and leadership competency development, you will find character as its basis. As the foundation of leadership is one's character, with the key being one's conviction. In fact, there are multiple examples that show lapses in character that create problems with far-reaching implications. Let me give you an example. Here in the United States, and this is not just in the United States, but leaders' personal demons can make or break a leader's legacy. For example, like I said, President Clinton, he damaged his presidency over the affair of an intern, and we can go on and on with numerous world leaders. But I just want to give you one that I think everybody is familiar with, at least. The breakdown of character tends to breed distrust and alienate your team members that bring strategic change, both within inside the organization and outside of the organization. According to Zupan in 2010, he argues that leadership is about character. Character is a continuously evolving thing. Leadership is a matter of how to be, not how to do. We spend most of our lives mastering how to do things, but in the end, it is the quality of our character as individuals that defines the performance of great leaders. Unquote. One could argue that character of the leader is the sauce, the thread of self-leadership and influence toward leading others. Basically, the stronger the leader's character, the better the decisions and performance outcomes the leader will make in all aspects of the leader's professional and family life. So character plays an important role in leadership. And since the foundation of leadership, let's examine the character-based leadership along with its traits. And so let's look at the traits here for just a second. The question here is that we're going to look at the individual leader as a manager or and manager, looking at leaders, others through their character-based leadership. The thing is that leaders must be willing to listen and learn and grow in their own self-awareness and a willingness to be authentic self and willingness to accept the simple fact that they have flaws as leaders, to work every day to become a better leader than you were yesterday. In the pursuit of developing ourselves as character-based leaders, we must give ourselves permission to leave our comfort zones and submit towards a transformative process of personal development and growth as a person and as a leader. As we grow, change, and mature, our character is created both good and bad. According to the character-based leadership, leading by transforming from within and encouraging others to transform from within is genuinely at the heart and the core of character-based leadership. In the essence, there are certain aspects of life that significant events that not only forms us, but is transformative in our character development. And so it's important to understand that us as leaders, as individual leaders, that we have our character forms our reputation. Okay, since leadership is the foundation, since character is the foundation of leadership, an understanding of how character shapes individual leadership practices to build high-performing teams is one of the aims of this talk. With that said, a review of the definition of character-based leadership provides a backdrop of what it really is. So one of the current talent management challenges that we have is transitioning of managers with a focus on day-to-day operations to leaders with leadership mindset and with the character of leading through influence based upon relationships and their character. We all have good and bad character, but it's the depth of our convictions and the character that determines us as leaders. And so I want to go a little bit more just as we go through this. The purpose of leadership is to bring out the best in others. Our organizations needs leaders who will coach and develop employees, and it's based upon relationships, leading others through the complexities and through the conflicts and through because every organization has conflicts. So it's like how you deal with organizational conflict will be based upon who you are and what your character is. Nelson Mandela believed that character-based leadership has little to do with the external environment, but has everything to do with the internal conditions of living by the principles in order to lead others. So what is your principles? Change is inevitable. Leadership and character matters more than ever during the organizational events that are uncertain, ambiguous, and rapid changes, because they shape how we deal with that uncertainty. So that's why character-based leaders are effective more than those that are not, that do not have that do not live by their character. I just want to go ahead and talk to you a little bit more about leading others, because effective leaders lie in the way an individual uses its influence to persuade something else to do something you want done or make things happen the way you want. This is because effective leaders involve more than simply demonstrating skills. Research shows that high performers that demonstrates technical expertise may not have the soft skills to lead without developing the leadership skills expertise that they need. So developing leaders never happens accidentally. Leaders involve more than demonstrating skills. It takes exhibiting character traits like integrity, trustworthiness, humility, servanthood, courage, and accountability over a long period of time. And when they prove themselves to be unwavering in a crisis, that is when leaders are at their best. Leaders are at the best when they are creating a leadership culture. Only leaders can multiply the leadership impact they are, by raising up additional leaders. So, you're only going to raise up leaders that either have good quality character or bad quality character, and it all rests upon you as a organizational leader. So, character-based leadership is a journey. It's a journey of self-development with a growth mindset, identifying behaviors of strengths and weaknesses, and personal vision to lead self in order to engage others as a transformative change agent. Now, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go and listen to this, and then I'll be right back.
But the video volume is little low, Mr. Andrew.
Oh, shit. Okay. I'm not exactly for sure how you can't hear it.
Yeah, the video had no volume, actually.
How do I get them to hear the volume?
Maybe you should increase on your system.
Okay, I don't know why they can't hear this. How do I get them to hear it?
Can you increase the volume from your system, sir?
No, I don't know how to do that.
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Andrew?
Yes.
Yes, there is an issue with the audio clipping. There is an issue with the audio. We actually can't hear the audio of the TEDx clip. So what you can just do is just go ahead post the link on the chat, so we'll just have a look at it. I think
Okay.
it's the issue with the Hopin platform. So we'll just skip the video part for now. You can just go ahead with your presentation. You can just go ahead and post the link of the video on the chat.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me now? Can they hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and post the, for some reason, you're not able to hear it. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to the video in the chat room. Okay. And then, so we're going to go ahead and go on. And I'm sorry. Whoops. So I'm sorry that you can't hear this. Just to wrap it up, the leadership challenges of uncertain and unpredictability and complexity within the cyber and IT context demand immediate attention and resources to develop tailorable leadership development programs to ensure cyber professionals are value added to the organization and capable of leading complex projects. With that said, leadership is hard and it's lonely. So ask yourself, what are your values and your beliefs and principles? Why do you want to be a leader? What would you as a, and why would anybody want to follow you? Then develop a personal leadership philosophy that will guide you as a leader in times of ethical dilemmas and decision makings. The power of character-based leadership is that people will understand the vision of their leadership and of their leader, and can predict with clarity how leaders will respond to a situation based upon their convictions and values and beliefs. Also, this brings trust and stability to fellowship relationships and employee performance. Every day we have a opportunity to be immoral in our business lives. It takes personal strength to establish the moral non-negotiables and stick to them. But a fulfilling life, free of devastation caused by immorality, is worth the effort to live by a code of ethics and draw on your own boundaries. What is your values, your principles, your beliefs, and ethical boundaries as a leader? Do the hard work of developing the moral courage to lead yourself. And I provided a leadership character-based assessment for you to go ahead and take a look at what is your leadership character. We all need to do the hard work of self-reflection, seeking a coach and daily journaling toward developing our character. Is it hard? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. But it is a choice that we all have to make in order to have the personal courage to lead the best way that we can. Because after all, like Simon Sinek said, leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about looking after those who are in our charge. And in order to do that people will be able to follow you is what is based upon your character. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. We now have few questions for you from our participants. Today, the most organizations working remotely from different geographical locations, how can leaders motivate and engage their teams?
Great question, and that is one of the biggest questions that is changed, or that's one of the biggest situations we have right now. Leaders now have to be, instead of we've always had the technological capability to have remote workers. Now it's demanding it's changing the way we lead, because now leaders have to become more engaged in the lives of their teammates. So one of the things that I've done, and one of the things that the research has shown is that you've got to be a lot more engaged, a lot more Microsoft Teams, a lot more when you have your meetings. This is the way that we've done it, is spending the first 5 or 10 minutes just having what I call a discussion. How you doing, Jane? Or how's things going? Anything that you need? Once in a while, just calling them, just not for business, but just to see how you doing. Doing things that are geographically dispersed with teammates. It's always good to build those relationships, even though we're so used to doing them face to face. You can also do them. It's not as effective, but it takes a lot more work on the leader to be able to develop those relationships just by talking to them, being more engaged in what they're doing, having team projects. You could do team projects on online. You can play team games that builds the team cohesion. Is it as effective as face to face? No, but there are a lot of things that you can do in order to keep that team cohesion. But I think it's important that leaders stay engaged and trust their people. Your people want to do a good job. They're going to do a good job. And it's found now that people are a lot more effective working remotely than they are when they were working face to face, and they're a lot more happier. And research has shown that now. And now it's a matter of trying to allow for leaders to get it into themselves to be a lot more engaged with their people. So that's one of the key areas for remote working as a leader. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Is the pressure for shareholders which leads to lack of ethics in CEOs?
I'm sorry?
is the pressure from shareholders which leads to lack of ethics in CEOs.
Yes, but what, you know, this is my perspective as a person that's been teaching character-based leadership for the last couple of years. Is for me, is like, am I willing to compromise my values and my beliefs and my principles
Yes.
for the shareholders? Am I willing to sacrifice who I am? And sometimes it takes courage. It does. It takes courage in order to do that, because we need to have that courage. Sometimes you feel the sense of urgency, and you've got to, it's hard to recognize those values, if those actions, if you're not willing to stand up for your values. For me, I would not give up my values just to satisfy my stakeholders, because I'm the one that's got to go to bed at night. I'm the one that's going to have to look at myself. I'm the one that's going to have to set the example, because if you do it, then the followers behind you are going to do it as well. So I understand the pressures of that, but that's why you have to understand who you are as a leader. What is your values? Because if you don't have that, you're like a ship that has no rudder. You're just going to go to and fro, and you're going to end up kind of like what we've got here in the United States with some of the problems that we have in our leaders, is that we lack character. And it's not just in the United States. I would say globally.
Right. So ethics best profits in companies. CEO trash ethics and go for profits. So what a disgrace. So would you like to elaborate on this?
So let me make sure I hear. Let me make sure I hear what you're saying and I understand. Okay. So what you're saying is that why do our senior leaders and the CEOs focus on profits over ethics?
Right.
Well, I would change it more into saying something like this: why is it that we do what's right for the, are we leading? Is our leadership more for doing what's best for the organization, or is it that we're doing it for our own personal interests?
Right.
And a lot of leaders that are willing to compromise their ethics and compromise who they are for the profits is lacks the character of actually leading in that organization. That's my perspective, and I think that research would show that. And also, we've got tons of illustrations about that, where you see that companies are failing. It's not that the company is failing; it's that the leader, the CEO itself, is more concerned about his own personal interest of lining his own pockets or whatever, than doing what's best for the organization. And that's where, if they are doing that, then they lack the character to actually lead that organization.
Right.
Because it does come back, and not only that, when the leader lacks the character,
yeah,
then what often happens, and we're seeing this right now with Microsoft. Bill Gates is having all sorts of issues because of his character, as far as the way that he ran his organization, as far as with the extramarital affairs and having such a toxic work environment. That's just now starting to come to life. So it not just impacts the leader, it also impacts the organization. You cannot get around who you are as a person. That's why your character as a leader is so important.
That was a very good answer. Thank you, Dr. Andrew, for providing guidance. From your deep research and long years of experience in guiding organizations, we are grateful for the concept of vision, understanding, clarity, and adaptability you have derived for facing the crisis that we continue to face during the pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Andrew.
You're welcome.
Hope to see you again in our next conferences.
Okay.
Bye-bye.